Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Community Church of Chesterland. Wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome and wanted here this morning.
We come together in this time and this place to nurture the courageous spirit of a free religious community, to renew our faith in one another and our capacity for unrelenting love, to affirm the way of the open heart and full heart, to rekindle the joy of being together, to see that we are not alone, and to strengthen our commitment to this beloved community.
O God of love, O God of peace, make war throughout the world to cease the wrath of human wrong sustain. Give peace, O God, give peace again. Remember, God, your works of old, the wonder that the people told. Heal every malice, harm, and pain. Give peace, O God, give peace again. Whom shall we trust, O God, but you? For you are constant, strong, and true. None ever called on you in vain. Give peace, O God, give peace again.
My name is Margie, and I'm happy to be here with you today. I'm a member of the East Shore UU sister church, and I'll be helping out with the service today. So I look forward to meeting you all after the service. The children's moment, I don't see any children. Anybody children at heart? Yes? Can I see hands? Good. I'm going to be reading a book called I Am Courage, a book of resilience. And it opens by saying, I move ahead, one breath at a time. I act with bravery. I am courage. When there are challenges in front of me, when I feel unstable, like I might fall, we have a little guy riding a bike here. And I think about turning back or giving up. When my mind tells me, I can't, I look deep inside myself and find the strength that lives deep down. And I tell my mind, yes, I can. I have faith in what's possible. I accept the challenge and keep going. I move ahead, one breath at a time. I act with bravery. I am courage. I can trust what my gut is telling me. I believe in myself. I can feel scared, but still carry on. I persevere. I can tumble and still get up again. I am resilient. I can lean on those around me. I'm not afraid to ask for support. I can encourage another when there is doubt. I am uplifting. I can know there is no shame in sharing. I tell my story. I can step in when others are struggling. I know how to help. I can be the one to clear the way for someone else. I am an example. When I feel uncertain and start to lose my balance, I find my center and gather my strength. I know what I am. I am courage. And I can keep going. We can all keep going. We are strong. We are capable. We are important. We are courage. And we are triumphant.
Good morning. Today's social justice moment comes the day after International Women's Day. So I wanted to talk about the gender pay gap. Just some information available for you so the next time it comes up in conversation, you have something to contribute. So the good news with the gender pay gap is that it is illegal in this country to be paid less for equal work. That is against the law. It has been against the law for decades. And if you or someone you know feel like that is what is happening to them, the law should be able to protect you and align with morality. What people mean when they talk about the gender pay gap is that if you take the average of pay for women and the average of pay for all working men, the former is less than the latter, which is strange because in aggregate, the skills for those two groups should be equal. So economists think there's two main factors continuing this trend. The first of which is called occupational sorting, which just means men and women tend to take different jobs. Men are more likely to work in blue-collared professions, and women are more likely to work as teachers, caregivers, what have you. Now, why does that difference exist? Economists are only there to diagnose, not speculate, but there's definitely societal messaging that can push people in those directions. There's one theory that says part of the reason why men's earnings are higher on average is because they stay out of lower paid professions, like elementary school teachers, home health care aides, social workers, lovely professions that deserve to be paid more, but because they are currently paid less, men don't have a reason to want to go into them. Women have done a great job of getting into higher paid professions, not the C-suite, but scientists and doctors, but we're not seeing a similar movement downwards from men. And so a possible solution to that is better paying stereotypically feminine professions. There's been some success with getting nurses to have more men in that profession because the pay went up. It always comes down to the pay. The second reason for why the gender pay gap persists is this idea of greedy work, that there are some jobs that have irregular schedules, demanding schedules, that ask you to be on call all the time, to work weekends, that would make it very difficult to take care of people at home. Again, women are typically less willing to take these jobs because they're more, on aggregate, they tend to prioritize taking care of children and taking care of their loved ones. And so work-life balance is more valuable to women. But businesses tend to pay you better if you're willing to work 70 hours a week. And so since men are more willing to give up that amount of time away from their families, they have access to that additional money. They're more likely to work overtime. So there's two ways we could approach this. We could say, women need to work more hours. We need better childcare, better transportation, making so that if a woman wants to work 80 hours a week, she can. The other solution is, why are men more likely to work overtime and spend time away from their homes? And the solution there is different. Some countries in Europe have what are called right to disconnect laws that say once a job tells you here are the hours you're expected to work, they are fined if they contact you outside of those hours. They let you disconnect and be with your family, except in cases of emergencies. So that way you don't have to respond on Sunday. You're not getting phone calls on vacations. You can be with the people you love. The other solution is to make work less reliant on you as a person. What I mean is, if you have a client who insists that they work with you personally whenever they think they need to, then it's harder to have that work-life balance. But if you can standardize professions, then people don't need to work those crazy hours to cater to clients. Nobel Economics Prize winner Claudia Golden talks about how this has happened already with pharmacists. It used to be that every single pharmacist was a compounding pharmacist. They had to know your dosage, know how to make your medicine, and be on call whenever you needed it. But now with standardized medicine, with Bayer and Johnson & Johnson, pharmacists can substitute for each other better, and nobody needs to work crazy hours and then make more money for having worked those crazy hours. So the pay gap in that profession is actually very small. So in sum, there's been a lot of success in closing the gender pay gap, but it does still exist, in part because of societal messages about who has to spend time with their kids. And so we can either try to say, well, everyone should be more productive, everyone should work more, or we can say, how comfortable are we with saying men should make less money, that they should work less? And I'm not being misandrist, but how at peace are we with the idea that your worth as a human being isn't determined by your paycheck, but by intangibles? And if we think about it in that way, is there really a gender pay gap, or is it only when we fail to account for the other aspects in people's lives? Thank you. There's a QR code in the bulletin, there's a plate at the back, there's a link on the website. However you choose to give, be it monetarily or through the gifts of your hands and feet, everything is welcome and appreciated. And now, please rise in body or spirit for the doxology.
Praise to the source of all we know, for peace and love that freely flow. Praise to the wisdom deep and wise, whose truth and justice open eyes.
Today's ancient reading comes from the teachings of the Buddha. During the late 6th and early 5th centuries BCE, the Siddhartha of Shakya, who later became known as the Buddha, was born in modern-day Nepal near the Indian border. While there are several mythical stories surrounding his conception and birth, the basic facts of his life are generally agreed upon. Born into a wealthy royal family, the Buddha was born and raised in luxury, in worldly luxury. Despite his father's attempts to shield him from the ugliness of life, one day he ventured out beyond the castle walls and encountered life. The Buddha came to realize that the mind is the root of everything. He turned inwards to solve the mind's problems and figure out how to make the mind happy in any situation. He believed that the root of happiness doesn't lie anywhere outside of ourselves, but actually right in our minds. It is thanks to our minds that we feel this life and sense the world around us. Our minds can undergo many states of emotion, such as sadness, happiness, worry, fear. Therefore, happiness also stems from our minds, not from external factors. Those factors can only act as conditions, not the foundation. In fact, our minds are truly the root of happiness. Accordingly, Buddhism is also called the path of mind cultivation. The study of Buddhism is to cultivate and train our minds to a certain level where we can stay contented and happy under any circumstance. Since happiness lies in our minds and not in other external criteria, money can come and go, and then go. Fame can be gained and then lost, and relationships can be formed and end. Nothing stays unchanged forever. The Buddha called this the law of impermanence. He said that everything is impermanent and changeable. Therefore, living among those changes, how should we stabilize and cultivate our minds? That is only when we can stay peaceful and contented in any situation and can obtain genuine happiness. Today's modern reading comes from Brené Brown. She writes from The Fast Track to Genuine Joy. and this is so true. This is me, okay? This is me. I used to stand over my 2 kids while they slept, and just as a profound sense of joy and love washed over me, I'd imagine horrible things happening to them. Car crashes, tsunamis. Do other mothers do this? Okay, gotcha. Grandmas? Yep. I wonder, or am I unhinged? I know now from my research that 95% of parents can relate to my constant disaster planning. Okay, got it from the back. When we're overwhelmed by love, we feel vulnerable. So we dress rehearse. We dress rehearse tragedy. Though I study scary emotions like anger and shame for a living, I think the most terrifying human experience is joy. It's as if we believe that by truly feeling happiness, we're setting ourselves up for a sucker punch. The problem is, worrying about things that haven't happened doesn't protect us from pain. I have to laugh, this is so me. Ask anyone who has experienced a tragedy. They'll tell you there is no way to prepare. Instead, catastrophizing, as I call it, squanders the one thing we all want more of in life. We simply cannot know joy without embracing vulnerability. And the way to do that is to focus on gratitude, not fear. The good news is that joy, collected over time, fuels resilience, ensuring we'll have reservoirs of emotional strength when hard things do happen. Here's the dare. Stop the train. The next time you're traumatized by what ifs, say aloud, I am feeling vulnerable. This sentence changed my life, and mine too. It takes me out of my fear brain, i.e. off the out of control train. She calls it crazy train, but I choose to call it just out of control. And puts me back on the platform where I can make a conscious choice not to reboard. Be thankful. So stop the train, be thankful. Recently, when a turbulent flight caused me to start planning my own funeral, I remembered something I'd learned in my research. Joyous people are grateful people. So I used the fear alarm in my head as a reminder to feel grateful for my kids, my husband, my work. Even more effective, speak your gratitude aloud to others or write it in your journal, however way. Number 3, start a practice. So stop the train, be thankful, start a practice. I believe joy is a spiritual practice we have to work at. For me, that means appreciating everyday moments. A walk with my honey bunch, fishing with my kids on the, she says husband, I'll say honey bunch. Fishing with my kids on the Gulf Coast. It means not living in fear of what I could lose, but softening into the moments I have.
Thank you for being here today. Your presence, your commitment to being here for each other makes it easy to keep showing up, especially when the world isn't headed in the direction we had hoped, especially when our hearts are heavy, when our emotions are still tender and raw, and our fears are high, and our angers easily triggered. The transfer of power in January has many of us disheartened, and some of us terrified, not sure where to turn next for safety, for support, for affirmation, not sure what to do next to move forward with our lives and to help others move forward with theirs. These feelings are appropriate. We now carry into the new year a heavy burden, a deep concern in seeing how this new government is impacting our world, our families, our friends, our livelihoods, our individual rights and freedoms. It is in too many ways a scary place to be, putting us in a chronic state of stress, exhausted from trying to keep our feelings of hopelessness, frustration, and anger under control. We're on the train sometimes, I think. I'm reminded of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how our needs determine where we are physically, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. Just to give you a visual of this triangle for those who aren't familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I'm going to start at the bottom and move my way up a little bit. Let's take a minute to revisit some of these levels. At the bottom level, we have our biological and physiological needs. We need air, food, drink, shelter, warmth, sleep, etc. This is survival at the core of human life and health. At this level, those of us who are secure in these things are called upon to step up and help clothe and feed those in need by our donations and support of the shelters that feed them and give them a warm place to sleep. With these needs met, our focus can move to the second level, our safety and security needs. We need protection from the elements, security, law and order, stability, and freedom from fear. Meeting our needs at this level is at risk for many of us now. Environmentally, climate change and the increase in tornadoes, hurricanes, flash floods, and wildfires cannot be dismissed and puts the safety of too many at risk every year, as recently evidenced by the fires in LA, the floods in downtown Asheville. Socially, all over the country, we are facing an increase in aggression, oppression, discrimination, and hate crimes, with new legislation against marginalized groups and a rise in white neo-Nazi activities in our cities. There is no denying we are feeling it in our bodies, in our minds, and in our spirits. We are consumed by it, and we feel helpless and resigned to a foreboding view of the future. So, getting ourselves to the next level is essential to help us through the coming years. And this is where we all come in. This is why I started by saying your presence, your commitment to being here, makes it easy for me and for others in this community to keep showing up. The third level of needs is our love and belongingness needs. At this level, we need friendship, intimacy, trust and acceptance, receiving and giving affection, and love. Also important at this level is affiliating, being part of a group, family, friends, work, church. Two things embedded within these needs that are critical for our self-esteem are the need for self-acceptance and the need to be accepted and valued by others. I don't need to go above level 3 in Maslow's model, because these three initial levels are where we need to focus as a community today and for the foreseeable future. In her book, Atlas of the Heart, author and researcher Brené Brown, whose work focuses on the connection between vulnerability and courage, says this: anger is a catalyst. Holding on to it will make us exhausted and sick. Internalizing it will take away our joy and spirit. Externalizing it will make us less effective in our attempts to create, change, and forge connection. Anger is an emotion that we need to transform into something life-giving. Courage, love, change, compassion, advocacy, justice. This is the transformative work we need to be doing together right here from level 3. With a large spike in calls to crisis support hotlines since the election, we need to continue to make our commitment to transform our anger into something life-giving. We need to be here for each other. We need to keep showing up for each other. When I pull into your parking lot and see a rainbow trans flag and a peace pole, I know I have found a level 3. What is courageous action for you is a joyful, life-giving moment for me. Coming to a place of love and belongingness is a safe place to be, and that kindles a spark of joy for me. It keeps the light of hope alive in my heart and gives me the courage to make my way forward into the unknown. Because I can see that I'm not alone. And I want you to see it too, that you are not alone. Look around. I want our being together right here, right now, to kindle a spark of joy for you too. One that will keep the light of hope alive in your hearts, to give you the courage to make your way forward with me into the unknown. Look around. Look at these beautiful faces. So this morning I want to share thoughts on what it can mean for us as individuals and as a community if we can balance our lives going forward in ways that are joyfully courageous. What, joy? Really? Today? Courageous, yes, but joyful? I admit that it took me some time to come to terms with the need to talk about joy. And I think that joy is an important topic, one that we should explore, especially now amid all that is going on around us. And finding ways to stay anchored in our ability to be courageous during these challenging times is something we all need to work on every day. This includes giving ourselves and each other permission to embrace joy wherever, whenever, and however we can. These moments of joy help strengthen our spirits so we can sustain together the courageous actions being called upon us now more than ever. Courageous action is what the world needs now. Okay, so how do we get there? This morning, let's shift our focus away from what's going on in the world around us for a while and take some time to lean in to level 3, our love and belongingness needs. It's the level where joy resides and where courage is fueled, and we have positive psychology to back us up. I draw insight from the Reverend Joshua Powellek of the Unitarian Universalist Society in Manchester for his sermon on the impact positive psychology can have on us spiritually. Happier is the title of a bestseller by Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar. With its bright yellow cover and vivid red lettering, the self-help book grabs your attention. In fact, it grabbed the attention of so many that the popular course Positive Psychology 1504 at the Harvard University Extension School had an enrollment of over 1,400 students the first time it was offered. But it wasn't the fun cover or the title that got me. It was the psychological aspects of life fulfillment that it examined. Empathy, friendship, love, achievement, creativity, humor, and spirituality. All things we have access to right here, right now. And all sources of, you guessed it, joy. Dr. Ben-Shahar's prescription for leading happier lives requires a disciplined spiritual practice, and at least for me helps further answer the question I return to time and time again: how shall we live? So often we focus on what's wrong, and we let that focus determine the course of our lives, too often leading us to despair and exhaustion. What if we choose instead to give ourselves permission to focus on what's right sometimes, on what makes us happy, on what fulfills us physically, emotionally, spiritually? What if we choose instead to balance our focus in these areas by being joyfully courageous? Joyfully courageous. I like the sound of it, don't you? Being joyfully courageous exudes such positive strength and purpose. It helps us both survive and thrive. Each one of you here today contains a woven tapestry of experiences, with the ups and downs, the hardships and comforts, the gains and losses, all of life's tattoos and scars. None of us have come this far without some. Dr. Ben-Shahar stresses that our experience of the world is heavily influenced by where we place our attention. He shows a slide with a myriad of colorful shapes. He asks students to look at the slide for 30 seconds and see how many shapes they can identify. After 30 seconds, he asks, how many children are on the school bus? Sure enough, in the middle of the picture is a school bus full of children, but nobody can say how many children are on it. It's a setup, of course, but a point well taken. When we look for certain things, we miss others. If we look for evil and brokenness, that is all we will see. If we look for goodness, dignity, human worthiness, and wholeness, we will see those things too. If we see our mistakes as embarrassments or signs of weakness, we will feel embarrassed and weak. If instead we look at our mistakes as opportunities for growth, we will grow. Happiness and fulfillment comes from what we choose to see and seek, what we choose to focus our attention on, and how we engage with those choices. Now, I'll admit these days it's difficult to stop at every breaking bad news story, every scary Facebook post, and instead look at examples of goodness, dignity, worthiness, and wholeness. In a world where our human rights are being denied and taken away, in a world facing catastrophic climate change, in the midst of wars, Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Gaza, to name a couple, in the midst of too many not having access to affordable housing, food, and health insurance, in the midst of how this new administration is devastating the marginalized, in the midst of all these negatives, all this breaking and brokenness, all these generators of fear, anxiety, and numbness, all these demonstrations of human short-sightedness, how do we, without denying or minimizing any of these things, because they're very real and profoundly impact our lives, how do we focus also on what is working well, on what brings hope and joy, on what brings a measure of happiness and fulfillment? How do we find space to include and nurture the positive so that we can live a joyfully courageous life? In his book and in his course, Dr. Ben Shahar says, practice. Yes, all these things may be going wrong in the world, and things may be difficult in our lives. I'm mindful in particular of those of you caring for aging parents, living with chronic illness, facing potential violence and oppression, facing diversity and disability discrimination, losing your rights to having life-saving medical care as women and trans folks. None of it may be going away without a fight. But even so, none of it has to fully determine our lives for us. We still have level 3. You are not in this mess alone. We have each other and the ability to make room to nurture empathy, friendship, love, achievement, creativity, humor, and spirituality. And we have each other to, as Brené puts it, transform our anger into change. But we have to keep showing up for each other. This message would do no good speaking to an empty room or an empty Zoom. Together, let's practice determining our lives the way we want to determine our lives. Let's practice cultivating the potential in ourselves toward a greater capacity to confront these things that challenge, frustrate, sadden, scare, and overwhelm us, and transform our emotions into actions. As Brené shares in her book, the good news is that joy collected over time fuels resilience, ensuring we'll have reservoirs of emotional strength when hard things do happen. So stop the train, be thankful, and start a practice. Okay, so what do we practice? Today I challenge you to take up some of the following daily practices from that Harvard course on positive psychology so that you can fuel your reservoirs of emotional strength. This is printed in your handout so that you can take it with you. First, start with joy. Ask yourself, what brings me joy? Little things count too, and ask this every single day. Notice the answers, remember the answers, and take that moment to be joyful. Then gratitude. Ask yourself, for what am I grateful? Ask this every single day. Notice the answers, remember the answers, and offer thanks. Next, praise. Ask yourself, what in my life is worth praising? Ask this every single day. Notice the answers, remember the answers, and offer praise. Then strength. Don't shy away from strength, especially now. Don't shy away from being strong and powerful. Ask yourself, in what ways am I strong? Ask this every single day. Notice the answers. Remember the answers. And be strong. Finally, meaning and purpose. Ask yourself, what gives my life meaning and purpose? What makes me come alive? Ask this every single day. Notice the answers. Remember the answers. And come alive. The things that you mention that give you joy, the things that fill you with gratitude, the things that are meaningful, the things that make you come alive, anchor them in your life. Turn them into rituals. If watching birds at the feeder gives you joy, make it a ritual. If volunteering to help with church events and activities, civic engagement, or social justice advocacy brings you a sense of meaning and purpose, make it your ritual. If working with your hands or numbers or people is one of your strengths, make it a ritual. Anchor it in your life. It has been said we are what we repeatedly do. Numerous studies show in a variety of ways how as we create and maintain an intentional practice of asking ourselves these questions and anchoring them in our lives through ritual, a new identity begins to emerge in us, a happier, more fulfilled identity, one more willing to trust and honor itself, one more aware of its worthiness, one more healthy, more self-determined, more joyfully courageous, and more able to deal effectively and creatively with life's challenges, from the personal to the global. By doing this, we take care of ourselves first and equip ourselves to bring that courage into our level 3 community, where together we can face and challenge the larger struggles outside of our control. Let's take courageous steps together into a new approach to this journey called life, steps that can help us embrace joy, enhance well-being, build strength, nurture gratitude, offer praise, and find meaning. Joy is the fuel of our resilience. Courage is the fuel for our journey forward. Let what brings us joy remind us why we won't surrender. I look out at you and I see a level 3, love and belonging in full force. May our journey together be joyfully courageous. Amen, and blessed be.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day and the dark scared night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of the people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn so much more than I'll ever know, and I think to myself, What a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
May the light around us guide our footsteps and hold us fast to the best and the most righteous that we seek. May the dark of night nurture our dreams under the stars of the heavens and give us rest so that we may give ourselves anew each day to the work of the world. Let us seek to remember the wholeness of our lives, the weaving of light and shadow, of joy and courage in this great and astonishing dance in which we move forward together. Amen, and blessed be.
This is the day, this is the day that our God has made, that our God has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it, and be glad in it. This is the day that our God has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day, this is the day that our God has made. This is the day, this is the day Jesus rose again, Jesus rose again. We will rejoice and be glad in it, and be glad in it. This is the day Jesus rose again. We will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day, this is the day that our Lord again. This is the day, this is the day when the Spirit came, when the Spirit came. We will rejoice and be glad in it, and be glad in it. This is the day when the Spirit came. We will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day, this is the day when the Spirit